Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Larry's Anything Goes. Hope you guys are having an awesome Wednesday. We got 2 more days to go before the weekend's here, but like they said, the hustle doesn't stop. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite books. Definitely one of the books that have been very inspirational to me in my current journey that I'm on right now in my life. It's by Robert T. Kiyosaki, and it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's not a new book. It's been out for a while, but the principles still lie the same no matter how good or bad the economy is. And I'm going to go over a little bit about Robert Kiyosaki's life, and I'm going to talk about certain aspects of his financial portfolio as far as his entrepreneurial portfolio. And then I'm going to give my little spill in regards to how I feel about this book and how, in the sense that it was changed my life and obviously changed the life of many others. And the list could go on and on. So, at the end of the day, Robert Kiyosaki, the one thing I can say I like about him is he's a self-made millionaire slash billionaire, etc. and so forth. You know, he grew up middle class in Hawaii. It wasn't given to him. He worked hard for his fortunes that he has right now. He went to college. He was in the U.S. Merchant Marines. He was actually even in the Vietnam War. And after he left the Marine Corps, he actually went to work in the private sector. He was in the sales business. He's a salesman. That's what he does. He's a great salesman at that. He did that for a couple of years, and then once the 1980s, the late 1970s appeared, he actually started his own company, and it was a wallet company, and it was called Velcro. And he actually sold the company after a couple of years it was in business. And then in the beginning of the 80s, Robert Kiyosaki tried his luck in business and in other businesses. And he was he was selling certified heavy metal rock T-shirts. And of course it was the 1980s. So that's when heavy metal was a big deal in its beginning stages and all that good stuff. He sold his business after a couple of years, and I think he went through a little bit of a time period where he struggled until he was about the age of 47. But he rose again in late 1990s when he established his company called Cash Flow Technologies. And essentially, Cash Flow Technologies is a company that incorporates. Once it was incorporated, it runs the brand of his Rich Dad and Cash Flow games and all that good stuff. And it was mostly board games for kids and things of that nature. And he put a lot of his money into real estate investments, which is that's what I'm doing, and that's one of the things I admire about him. He put a lot of money, because after he sold a lot of his companies, he would buy up real estate, and he bought up real estate not even within the United States of America, but he actually bought real estate in Central and South America at the same time. And he actually bought oil wells in Central and South America, and he made a lot of residual passive income from those oil wells and all those other projects. And not only, and with all those great investments, and that's one of the things, the main points to take away from the book. The book tells you to make your money work for you. Don't just work for your money. Always ensure that you make your money work for you. And Robert Kiyosaki does a great job of doing that. And that's one thing I admire about him. I think that's something most people admire about him. He took his fortunes and didn't buy crap. He invested. I remember one of the things, a lot of times, not only he invested in things, but he invested in people. He had the right people around him, and that's always the great thing to do in order for you to be a successful entrepreneur. You have to have the right people. You can have all the money in the world, but you got to have the right people around you at the same time to not only keep you inspired, but to keep a flow of great ideas circling around you on a regular basis. Because at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's all about mindset, and that's one thing I definitely admire about him. And last but not least, in regards to, before I get to the book, the series of the book is basically a comparison between his two dads. His rich dad and his poor dad. So his poor dad was actually his biological father, and his biological father was the Secretary of Education Superintendent of the state of Hawaii. But at the end of the day, he died broke, and that was yeah, he essentially died broke, and his rich dad was a person who dropped out of school when he was 13 and became one of the richest men in Hawaii. And I'll elaborate a little bit more on that later. But let's get to the book. So one thing that I love the most about the book is that it destroys the myth that you need to work very hard for high income, because that's the myth that most people, at least people, middle class and poor people, are told, that you have to work very hard for a high income, and that's the only way you can be successful and work very hard for income. I can't speak for other parts of the country, but I can speak a lot about the DMV, Washington D.C. metropolitan Northern Virginia area. Is that a lot of people work very hard in this area for high incomes, but for the most part, they die broke, or they die barely getting by. They have a paycheck to paycheck mentality, even when they're making $100,000 to $200,000 a year. And not just because of the cost of living in this area, but because people want to live this lifestyle of this stature of status. And that's why their bank account could look the same as somebody making $35,000 to $45,000 a year, because the mindset is work hard for high income, still have the overpriced cars and overpriced homes, and not have any true assets. That's the thing about the book. It really talks about assets. You know, a great example is a car is not an asset if it's not making you money. A house is not an asset if it's not making you money on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, not a yearly basis, not the tax refund time, but on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and a yearly basis. Put it all together. That's what's considered an asset. You know, it's like if you buy stocks and the dividends that you get from those specific stocks, that makes it an asset. But a bigger asset is owning a house or renting it out, and then getting passive, having a low mortgage and ensuring that your renters are paying more than your mortgage. That's generating you passive income. That's what's considered an asset. A car is an asset nowadays for Uber and Lyft drivers, Amazon Flex drivers, and Grubhub drivers. That's what's considered an asset, because you might have a car payment, you might not have a car payment, but you're able to utilize that car in order for you to earn money. So that's what makes that car an asset. Or it could be an asset if you own a fleet of vehicles, you rent them out to Uber and Lyft drivers, or you're utilizing them for delivery services. The list could go on and on. You know, the concept of not only working for money, but make money work for you is, you know, so you can have more free time on your hands, is the main point of the book at the end of the day. And that's one thing I love about the book. And it challenges the belief, which I think everybody's belief should be challenged. I'm not saying it should be disproven, but I think everybody's belief in something should be challenged, because then it challenges you to think a little bit harder and regroup and even come stronger with an even better argument at the end of the day. And doing this without getting into your feelings, because we have too much of that nowadays anyways, but that's just my personal opinion. You know, challenges the belief that your house, car is an asset. It's not if it's not making you money on a daily or weekly, monthly basis, period. You know, assets make you profits, so you don't have to have a job. That's what a true asset is. If you disagree with that, then hey, that's your business. But that's what I took away from the book. Please read it for yourself if you think otherwise. Hey, that's what it's all about. Different thought patterns, different belief systems, and we come together as a collective, as a whole, as real adults should. The book also talks about a variety of reasons why the public and the private school systems are not teaching kids what money really means. And when I say that, they teach you how the public and private school system have one thing in common. They're teaching you how to be a great employee, but they're not teaching you how to be a boss, to be a CEO of your own life. Now, not everybody's going to be a CEO of a company, but everybody is a CEO of their own life. So say if you do have a high paid job, but you're living way above your means, because that's what people love to do, and you're still barely getting by, and you're losing sleep over $5 to $10, then you're obviously not playing the money game correctly, because that's why the Rich Dad Poor Dad game series is a game, because that's what life is. It's a game, and you play the game to win. That's what money is. You get money, and you play with money in order for it to win. Money is supposed to be two things. Is one thing I took away from this book: a survival tactic and an actual asset and / employee. Okay, because your money's supposed to work for you. Just like you go to work every day and go work for somebody, you're working for somebody else. You're making money for them. So when you utilizing your money outside after you're paying your bills and you're just spending it on frivolous nonsense that doesn't mean anything after you buy it, therefore you're not employing your money in the correct way. You're actually just wasting. It's like having an employee just sit there and not produce anything. It's like, hey, employee, just sit on the bench while you keep getting paid, and I don't need you to produce anything. My company will survive just great that way. That's another thing I took away from the book. And that's the one thing I like about that at the same time, because kids are not being taught to be bosses. They're taught to be good employees. And I think this is my thing when it comes to the school system. I think teach them how to be a good employee, and then teach them how to be a successful boss / CEO. And then they'll find an even balance within their life, within their journey. Everybody has a different process and that has a different journey. But I believe if you're challenging people and kids at the same time to think outside of the box and not get so comfortable with just being an employee, then their perspectives could be a little bit broadened. And I'm sure there's various studies that are done on this, and I'm sure that other school districts are trying to accomplish this mission, but they're not doing it at a big enough pace, in my personal opinion. And then when I think about it, there are more people out here in the United States who are student loan debt, credit card debt, car debt because of the high car payments that you have nowadays. Then there are in business debt. Out of all of those I've just mentioned, I always say it, the best kind of debt to have is business debt. You're going to have debt on some level, so why not try to have some sort of a business debt or an investment debt? The choice essentially is up to you, but you have to want to go outside of your comfort zone. That's just how I look at it. That's just me. But that's what he challenges. He tells people in this book that you have to walk outside of your comfort zone and be willing to take the risks. And a lot of people are not ready to take those calculated risks. And a lot of times that's why they end up not being a boss, not being a CEO, and they continuously repeat the cycle so that their kids do the same thing, and they're not using money in the right way. They're just using money. They're not using money as an employee. They're not using money to gain assets. They're just using money to buy crap. But hey, that's the way it is, and everybody has their personal choices when it comes to their own money. But if you wonder why you're not really being successful at the money game outside of having a nice car and a big house, those are the main reasons. That's the main reasons what this book really touches on, and that's what I love about it. And the book also teaches kids about financial intelligence, which is something that's not talked about a lot either. It gives various aspects of how kids can invest their money, how parents need to build generational wealth so that they do not have to start at the beginning after high school when it comes to their finances. I made a video about this. I know other YouTubers have made videos about generational wealth, and it's a simple concept of being able to pass down a house and a business to somebody. So when they leave high school, they leave the military, they leave college, they don't have to start at square one financially. Imagine the amount of money that you could save if you have a decent paying job. Just decent. I'm not even going to say high paying job. A decent paying job, and you're given a home, possibly a car, even better, a business to run. And you don't have to worry about that amount of debt. You could be able to put money away so that in order for you to purchase more assets for the family, and then be able to continuously pass down assets from generation to generation to generation. I won't go much further into that, but that was one of the videos I made a couple months ago, and I think it's a great thing where I see it being practiced in certain parts of the United States, but not in most parts, because everybody wants to have this I got a better house than you, car than you nonsense, then I have a better business than you mindset. And it's all about the mindset at the end of the day, and that's another thing that this book talks about, which I love. Now, the two dads, like I said, his biological father was a PhD, and at the time it was in the 1950s and 60s. So around that time period, a PhD was probably making $45,000 to $50,000, which in today's is probably considered to be $100,000. Today, a superintendent in the state of Hawaii makes between $156,000 and $188,000 a year. So you could just do the math. Maybe the superintendent made $70,000 a year. That was considered a lot of money. I mean, we're talking about for the whole state of Hawaii. So he had a high-paying salary, but he still died broke. Because he played the money game in the old-fashioned way. If I'm just going to make a lot of money, and then, by the way, I'm always in fear of losing my job, so I'm going to go beyond the call of duty, and I'm going to buy all these expensive things. I'll take vacations once or twice a year, and that's the end of my life and my existence. But when it comes to having assets, so he doesn't have to worry about getting up early in the morning to get to work and putting in 10 to 15 hour days, I can just only imagine what the schedule is of a superintendent for a whole state is like. And it's probably very, very, very hectic. And I guess Robert Kiyosaki did not want to follow in his dad's footsteps when it came to that, and that's where it goes back once again to the video I made in my rant today about following your dreams. You don't always have to follow in your parents' footsteps. You know, sometimes you just got to make yourself proud instead of worrying about making everybody else proud. His dad didn't particularly care for the route that he took, but it was his life and it was his choices, and it's not like he was just sitting there on welfare and just collecting a paycheck without really trying to contribute anything to society. So there you go with that. The thing with Robert Kiyosaki is, and I was talking about kids earlier, this was a mindset that was instilled to him as a child. Him and his best friend, his best friend's dad, who was at the time in the 1960s and 50s, 60s, and 70s, was considered the richest man in Hawaii. And by the way, he dropped out of school at age 13, and he became one of the wealthiest people in Hawaii. Now, why is that? Because he had a different mindset, not of just the academic mindset, but of the business mindset. Because there's two different mindsets when it comes to life. You have the employee academic mindset, then you have the business mindset. Not people with all the education in the world, some of them cannot really be successful business people. It is a skill set that is not only one you can read about and watch YouTube videos about, but it's a skill set that you have to fully engage in to become an expert at it. Because you're gonna, even with Robert Kiyosaki, it was he wins some, you lose some. You know, it's like business is like a boxing match. It is a sport. Mark Cuban calls it a sport, and you got to be ready to play. Sometimes you're gonna win, sometimes you're gonna lose, but you got to be ready to play. Wipe your face, and get back up again, because it's a constant battle between competing individuals on a regular basis, competing companies on a regular basis. And at the end of the day, the moral of the story is, when it comes to this book, without financial intelligence, you will be doomed to barely make it and die broke. It's the old adage that 50 Cent's first major album was "Get Rich or Die Trying," and you have to look at it like that in the same aspects. Because if you're just hoping that your 401k or your TSP or your stocks and bonds, Social Security is going to take care of you when you get older, that in 2018 and beyond is considered a straight up myth. Do not buy it. My mother's and my father's and my grandparents' generation was the last generation to really have retirements to take care of you if you worked at a corporation or you worked for a government organization that could take care of you on once you reach a certain age. Those days are dead and gone, and they're not coming back. So you have to have assets in this life if you're going to even have some sort of a decent retirement. Like I said, it all goes back to the mindset. Owning assets, producing money on a daily basis, and then, in a sense, kind of just picking that tray of money up and putting it into other pools and having money coming from multiple different areas. That's the mindset of a boss, and that's the synopsis of this book. At the end of the day, now if you want to check it out, you can go to my website. I'll leave the link in the captions below, and you can go, because I'm an Amazon affiliate, you can go through my website and purchase it. But trust me, you will not be sorry purchasing this book. This is, and many other, you can look up his videos on YouTube or any other outlets. Great, very intelligent individual. When it comes to him as a person, yeah, he's got his little traits, got his little douchebag mentality. I'm not even gonna lie, hey, I'm gonna keep it real. But he is who he is, You love him or hate him, but his message stands clear in regards to people having a different mindset. And I say that with sincerity. The mindset is key. If your mindset is stuck to everything else but what kind of assets you have in your life, or what kind of assets you could truly attain in your life, then you're playing the money game wrong. I've learned a lot after reading this book, and I highly recommend you check it out. And hopefully you guys liked the video. Give it a thumbs up, please, if you did. And afterwards, please subscribe and share. And have a great day.